The arteries and veins share three common structures or layers that are found in the vessel walls, and these layers are collectively referred to as the tunics. Blood passes through the space in the middle of the vessel, and that space is referred to as the lumen. We'll examine these three tunics for the arteries, and then we'll compare the structures found in the walls or the tunics of the arteries to those found in the tunics of the veins. The deepest tunic is referred to as the tunica intima, which faces the lumen of the vessel. The tunica intima consists of the endothelium, which is a simple squamous epithelium that functions in creating a smooth inner lining for that vessel. Damage to the endothelium promotes clot formation because clotting will begin when the clotting factors are activated as they touch the connective tissue that's located underneath the endothelium. And this is part of the intrinsic mechanism of clot formation. The tunica intima also contains the basement membrane, which is made of areolar and collagen connective tissue that binds the endothelium to deeper layers. And the tunic also contains the internal elastic membrane, which is made of elastic connective tissue. And the internal elastic membrane helps to permit the artery to stretch when the heart beats and pumps blood into the artery. This puts pressure on the walls of the artery. That elastic connective tissue will then recoil when the heart relaxes, which functions to supplement the pumping action of the heart and continue to move blood through that vessel. Next, we have the tunica media, and the tunica media consists primarily of smooth muscle. The muscle alters the diameter of the vessel in order to control blood pressure and blood flow. For the arteries, this means that it's going to control blood flow into capillary beds. The tunica media is the thickest of the wall layers in the arteries, and it functions in creating vasoconstriction or vasodilation for that artery. Vasoconstriction will decrease the diameter of the artery in order to decrease blood flow, but it does increase blood pressure. Vasodilation will increase the diameter of the artery to increase blood flow, but at a cost of reducing or decreasing blood pressure. It also consists of the external elastic membrane, which is very similar to the internal elastic membrane and functions in the same way. So finally, the external-most of the tunics is called the tunica externa. It consists of primarily sheets of collagen fibers, which function to anchor the blood vessels to nearby structures, such as bones and muscles. It also contains the vasa vasorum, and these are small capillaries that nourish the tunica externa and the tunica media tissues, because these tissues tend to be very thick in the arteries, and they are also too far away from the blood that's in the lumen of that blood vessel for oxygen and nutrients to diffuse effectively to them. So we will briefly examine the veins, and examining the veins, we see that the tunica intima is the same as for the arteries, except that the veins lack the internal elastic membrane. Veins are simply too low pressure in order to effectively be stretched out by the pressure of the blood inside of them. We also have the tunica media in veins, which, just like the arteries, consists of smooth muscle, except that in the veins there is less smooth muscle, and the tunica media is much thinner. Also in the veins, we see that the tunica media lacks the external elastic membrane. And then finally, the tunica externa of the veins is exactly the same as it is for the arteries. Figure 23 shows the structures in the walls of the blood vessels with the arteries on the left, veins on the right. So for both vessels, we see that they consist of the same three layers or tunics. We have the tunica externa, the tunica media, and the tunica intima, and that's from external to internal. The tunica externa is the same for both the arteries and the veins, while the tunica media is much thinner in the veins and lacks the external elastic membrane. The tunica intima is the same between the arteries and veins, except that in the arteries there is an internal elastic membrane, while the veins do not possess an internal elastic membrane.